cuties, I'm Brittany with Stitches of Love Quilting, and welcome to the video tutorial for the Quilts on the Floor Club, specifically the 7th box in the series of 12, and it is called Oh Hello. Take a look. Is that not so cute? So for those of you that aren't familiar, the Quilts on the Floor Club is a 12-month subscription box where every month you get everything you need to make a canvas rug. So it's a quilt made out of canvas fabric, and it's durable enough to be walked on the inside of your home. So each month you get a super cute design. This design I really like because you can use this design all year long. So you can pick a spot in your house and use it all year, or you can change it out in different spaces in your home. It's just really so much fun to make, so much fun to have in your house. So in this tutorial, I'm going to walk you through all of the steps. I'm going to switch between talking to you, doing overhead shots where I show you details, and then Julie is going to also join me and give you stitching and quilting tips. So we're going to walk you through the whole process. If you ever have made a mug rug, just think of this as a giant mug rug. So it's a really, really simple to do. The quilting is easy. The applique is easy. As you can see, it's just straight lines stitched about 1/8 of an inch in on all of the pieces. And throughout the entire year, we use the same threads. We use black thread for the applique, and we use the ecru or white kind of beige thread for the quilting throughout the entire year. So let's first start by unboxing our box. So let me put this right beside me on the floor appropriately. I'm going to add a camera shot for you. So every month you get the most adorable box, Quilts on the Floor. I'll hold it up for you here as well. How cute is this? So when we open this up, it's going to have everything we need to make our little quilt. So I'm going to just cut my tape. This, I literally just went into the room, and this would be a box that shipped to a customer. So it's going to be just like when you open it when it comes to your house. And fun fact, I'm having one sent to myself every month because I really, really, really love these. I'm going to have them in my house every month. So when you open your super cute box, the first thing you'll notice right inside, it says never underestimate the importance of having fun, because that's what this is all about. So right when you open your box, you have a couple cards on top. Of course, sometimes your little candy slips out, but every month you get a little candy. These are little dinner mints, and I love these. They remind me of when I was a kid. There was a buffet, and I always, at the end, you got a little after dinner mint, and I just thought it was so grown up. So the first thing you'll notice is a note to use a rug pad. It's a rug, so you treat it like a rug, everybody. You use a rug pad like you would any other rug. So the rug pad that I recommend, I'll show you, I ordered this just from Amazon. It was under $10. And this basically, it's almost like a shelf liner kind of feeling. It's just a rubber rug pad. And it's 2 feet by 3 feet. So you just trim it down because the rug finishes at 18 inches by 30 inches. So you just trim it down and discard the rest of that. And then you can have a rug pad. Super easy. You can, of course, use a wool rug pad with a little bit of rubber on the bottom. I also, in my house, under the rugs by my bed, it's like a really thin, solid piece of rubber where I don't want my rugs too thick. And I use wool rug pads underneath all of my wool rugs. I wouldn't really go so far as to put a wool rug mat underneath this rug, but if you want to, certainly do. This is more than enough. You just want to keep it from gripping. And then people ask how you keep it in place. Well, I haven't had a problem with my rug pad moving away from my rug, but you can either safety pin it in the corner, or you can make little triangle squares on the 4 corners really little with your extra fabric, and that'll hold it in place. So I'll show you that later in the video, but really you just plop it down on your rug pad. Easy peasy. Now on the back of this little notice, we made a little cheat sheet for you that tells you your thread and then your how to care for your rug. So you're going to use a 30 weight thread in your bobbin, 30 weight in your needle, I apologize, and a 50 weight in your bobbin, and then you'll use a 90-14 needle. That's the same for your applique and your quilting. And then care for it, you're just going to plop it in the washing machine on delicate and let it air dry. And then you, of course, can iron it if it's wrinkled. I will be honest with you, I have plopped mine in the regular cycle, and I have also put mine in the dryer, and it's been just fine. But technically, this is the care instruction. So follow the care instruction, not what I do, which is I go hard. As I say in my house, I don't know how, but we live really hard in our house. So before we even launched the club, we had these rugs in my house testing, and they are dog and husband approved. I don't have kids, but I have a dog that plays in the mud, and somehow from sitting on the deck and going in our yard every day and out in the garden every day, I don't know, the back door and stuff at our house gets used really hard, and these rugs have survived. So I feel confident it'll do good at your house. And then, of course, there's a little card, how to contact us. You can always click on support on our website and get to us. And then also, thank you. There's me and Mom. Thanks for your order. Okay, so now let's open this up. First off, I want to thank our amazing team. Look how cute. This is like so nicely packaged. I really hate to break it and open it, but I have to. So we did giant stickers. How fun is that? So I'm going to, oh my gosh, I really hate to rip it, but there's just no way, guys. I'm opening it. How cute is this? So let me turn it where you can see everything in the box. So when you first open it, you have your pattern. So most months your pattern is going to be formatted like a little booklet. There's some months where the instructions are a little longer, like the Scarecrow, because there's so many applique units that ends up being not the right number of pages to be a booklet. But most of the time you're going to get a booklet. Sometimes it'll be regular paper printed front and back. So you have your nice picture, very clear, easy to see of the design. When we open it up, we're going to go through our cutting instructions. Then we have our applique instructions, and then our quilting and finishing instructions. And then again, a reminder of the care and use. And on the back, another little close-up picture. And then, of course, the materials that you have in your box and the materials that you need. And then, of course, a reminder, it finishes at 30 inches wide, 18 inches tall. Now we have full-size applique placement guides. We're going to tape these together in a minute. And then we get to, I'm going to turn it back this way, all the goodies. So we try to pack this where your pieces are not going to get wrinkled. If they do get a little wrinkled, it's okay. We just iron them. So you have a little bag with some of the small pieces. This month, it happens to be where the front, back, and binding of your rug are all the same color. So you have a big chunk of canvas fabric. I'll talk about cutting tips in a second. Some months, you'll have different fabric. I think the next box after this, number 8, is the Halloween box. And that has the boo bat. And I believe the front, back, and binding are all different colors. So you're going to end up with 3 pieces of fabric. And of course, the instructions tell you how to handle that. Now we have our big applique pieces. So here's our big flower. Look at that. Bloop. And then, oh, hello. Boop. That's so fun. So this is all cut out. You just have to snip it a little bit. So we'll talk about handling that in a minute. So that's the end of everything in your box. So cute. This is a really fun box to store things in. It is the shipping box, so sometimes your postman will get it a little dirty. If it doesn't get dirty, you can keep it. So toss that aside. So up first, what we're going to do, bloop, 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 bloop. Let me get my pieces kind of organized here. I don't want them to wrinkle now that I got them out. And every month there's a different number of pieces. Just so you know, like in this month, there's quote unquote only 6 applique pieces. But then in the month with the Scarecrow, there's like 46 applique pieces, I believe it is. So just so you know, the number of pieces throughout the year is averaged out. So you pay the same price every month. And now we're going to talk about getting ready and cutting. So let's open our instructions. I'm going to turn it back to the full camera. So you don't need to like read with me. You have your own pattern night. So first up, you just check everything in your box. We just did that. We unboxed. Now we are going to iron our slub canvas fabric, and we're going to make sure it's folded straight, selvage to selvage. So I'm going to show you what that means, and then we're going to cut it. So I'm not going to show you cutting it because you know how to cut, right? So what we are going to cut, though, are 2 pieces that are 31 by 19. That's going to be the front and the back of our rug, and then we're going to cut our binding strips. So our binding strips are 3 inches wide, and that's because it's really easy to fold that big wide binding around and catch it, because we finish this off with a sewing machine. I don't recommend finishing your binding by hand just because it's not easy to poke through a canvas fabric. So that's why we do a 3-inch binding. So there's plenty to fold around. So let's talk about what it means to have things folded selvage to selvage. So you know the selvage is the fuzzly part, right? Here, I'll put the camera back. I know you know this. I'm just saying it just in case you're a newbie. So the selvage is the fuzzy ends, right? And when you can see how nicely our team has this folded for you, perfectly straight. So when this comes to us, it's on giant with the fabric rolls, 54 inches wide. And we have about 100 feet long table that they unroll it, and it takes multiple people to like get it perfectly straight selvage to selvage all the way down. And they do this for prepping for the laser pieces that they have to cut and for the pieces that go in your box, the long pieces. So when you get it, most likely in shipping, it hasn't like tousled around too much. It's still going to be pretty perfect on your selvage to selvage. But if it's not, make sure that it is. And then you will be able to lay it out and cut it. It's really easy to cut. Okay. So once you have your selvage to selvage, treat it just like you would cotton quilting fabric. You cut it with your regular rotary cutter and all the good stuff. So let's everybody pause for a second. We're going to go to our ironing board and then we're going to go to our cutting mat and we're going to cut our pieces, and we'll be back to talk about those and continue on with the steps of the project. Okay, so we're back with our fabric cut. So we have two pieces that are our binding pieces. They're 3 inches by width of fabric. And again, a reminder, when I cut, let me show you the overhead camera. When I cut, I made sure that my selvage was lined up nice and then my fold was lined up nice so that it fit under my ruler, right? So those were ready to set aside. You're gonna notice you have a lot of fabric left over every time. And I mentioned with a rug pad, if you want little triangles on the corner, you can do that. You can cut 4 little squares. I cut mine at 3.5 inches. And if you want, you can just fold them like this. And when we get to finishing it off with the binding, you would sew this in the 4 corners. That gives you just enough for your rug pad to tuck under. This is optional. Again, you don't really need to do it, but if you feel more comfortable having something holding, you can cut 4 little squares out of your extra fabric. And you have tons of extra fabric. Let me show you. You end up with like a whole bunch left over. See? So you can keep that. You never know what you'll be inspired to make with all your extra canvas every month. And then we have the front and back of our rug. So this, because they're the same fabric, doesn't matter which is the front and which is the back. Let me get you. There we go. I know it's hard to watch 2 cameras. So I'm going to put the back aside. And then the front, we don't need just yet. What we're going to work with now are our applique pieces. So what I'm going to do first is take my big old pieces of applique placement guides. They're full size. They're 11 by 17. They're stapled so that we make sure you get all of them in your kit. So we're just going to pull that staple out. There we go. And we're going to tape these together, and then we're going to number our applique pieces. There we go. So it's easy to line these up because it's just 4 pieces of paper. So you just start lining up where they overlap. Now you're going to notice there's a line drawn down the middle. That is going to mark your middle. And then you have the size of your trimmed piece marked as well. Now, when you trim, use a ruler. I don't know why this is like a new thing occurring. People are emailing and saying, actually, it was printed at this size. It was off by 1/4 inch. Well, use a ruler, everybody. Yeah, nothing wrong with rulers. I can't cut anything without a ruler. So definitely use a ruler just for the fact that you need a straight edge, right? So I'm just taping this together with regular tape. See, so this is what we have right now. I have 2 pieces taped together. We have the top half. And again, I know this is like really simple, but if this is your first time kind of going into applique, you might be like, this is new. It's super easy, okay? And then we just get this lined up. And there we go. And if it's not perfect, don't worry. I mean, right? So there we go. Now on this pattern, I didn't mark measurements from like the left side to the oh hello or from the top down to the hello. I only made a notation of where to start the bottom. On all the other months, I decided it was easier to give y'all measurements everywhere because normally with applique, you're going to use your placement guide and your light pad, but with these, the pieces are just so big, you can't really use that. You have to kind of eyeball where it goes. So you're going to use a ruler to guide that. So on this pattern, that's not marked, but I got smart for the rest of them, y'all. Don't worry. So you're going to know exactly where to measure over and iron things for the future months. So I'm almost done taping. There we go. So the first thing in our instructions is to make the applique unit for the bottom, which is pieces 4, 5, and 6. But before we do that, we got to prep our pieces. I didn't do that. Let's get those over here. Bloop. So the little pieces in the bag are ready to go. And you can number them if you want. On this, because there's only, what, 6 pieces, I'm not going to number it. I can handle 6 pieces. But on some months, I highly recommend that you number everything because there's so many pieces. Like when we get to the scarecrow and things like that, or Santa, or the jars, you're going to want that. So let me add the camera view so you can see what I'm doing. Sorry, y'all, I'm reaching around some really big pieces of fabric. And normally our projects, because they're block of the months, typically every month we're just working with like cute little pieces. In this, we're working with some really big pieces. So I make Karen K Buckleys, and we're just going to snip our pieces free. This is our comma. And then everything is cut out. You just have to free it. So see, I'm finding, am I in there? Yeah, I'm just clipping. Boop. And then you want to make sure you take the pieces out of the center. Don't get those confused with the comma. Put them to a different direction. Aren't you glad you didn't have to trace and cut this whole thing out? Oh my gosh. It's really fun to see how this canvas lasers, by the way. You know, our entire company is set up around 100% cotton quilt shop fabric. And so when we had the idea to do this, we're like, well, let's make sure everything's going to work. And I wasn't sure how the lasers were going to do with the canvas, but look at that. Absolutely stunningly beautiful cuts. I was really, really pleased with how well everything cut out. It's awesome because if you had to cut out all this canvas and trace all the reverse pieces, yada, 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 that's just not as much fun. You know what I mean? So right now, all you have to do is free your little guy. And I try not to put too many snippets in there, but I also want it to ship without getting wrinkled. So when I digitize this for you from Julie's Art, I try to make it as user-friendly as possible to snip free. Oh, one more. Bloop. There we go. So there's our hello. And this, you know what? A lot of people, this is a fun one because it looks like the word kind of. A lot of people will save like the pieces that are around applique pieces and give it like to their grandkids for like little art projects when they come over. You never know what kids can make with things. You know what I mean? Their imagination is fun. I was listening to a podcast today and they were talking about like, when is it, like what age is it where we all kind of like lose our innocence and our imagination? Like kind of all of a sudden you're like a grown up. You know what I mean? Like you're not pretending you're a unicorn on the playground anymore. And I was like, yeah. And then I thought about what I get to do all day. And I was like, well, I kind of still get to play a lot, right? And for those of you doing this project, you're getting to play too and have fun. And so that made me happy for all of us. For those of us that have like a creative outlet like this, like quilting, it's really fun. Okay, I don't even know how I started talking about that, but got to talk about something while I'm cutting, right? Okay, so our little pieces are ready to go. So basically all we have to do is put it on. So I'm going to set these aside, and it's going to be hard to get everything to show in the camera, but y'all, I'm going to do my absolute best. Bloop, and our little comma. Oh, my iron's not hot anymore. So the iron I'm using is my little Aliso. Now, I will give you a tip. Like I'm using a Steady Betty and I'm sitting at a table so that I can film. Ideally, what I would do, honestly, is take this to my actual ironing board and bring my ruler with me, and I would lay it out at my ironing board and give myself plenty of space for my giant background fabric, right? Our background fabric right now is 31 inches wide and 19 inches tall. So it's a lot of fabric to work with. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my center marked. And so I'm just folding my fabric in half. And it doesn't have to be like exactly perfect. Don't stress out about anything in this. And I'm going to press because I want to have just a little visual guide to help me when I'm looking at my placement guide. So like I said, a lot of times with applique, we have our perfect stack, right? We have our light pad, we have the glass mat, we have our fusing mat, and we're building the applique units and then putting it on. So some months we're going to use our fusing mat and we're going to make little units and then put it on. And in this pattern, we tell you to make the applique unit of the flower. I'm just going to put it on the fabric because it's just a few pieces. So let's open it up and we're going to read the instructions. Always a good idea, right? I want to make sure you can see the bottom. And I feel like I'm digging for items in my little workspace. So we are going to put our applique unit 1, meaning the little flower, 3/4 inches above the bottom of our background fabric, ensuring you have more than 18 inches above it. So all that means is we're putting it where it's going to be easy to trim and we know it's going to be plenty of height. So I'm just going to get my ruler, and 3/4 inches is right here. So I'm just going to give myself a little fold for now while I'm getting ready to iron my piece. So first up, my big flower. I'm going to give myself a little mark of where the center is. Just right there. That's not going to hurt your applique piece. See, I'm just kind of pressing. And then I'm going to peel this. Bloop, bloop. And it just comes right off. Don't toss it on the floor like I did. So I have my little center mark, and I have my center mark here. So that's approximately in the center. Now I'm going to fold this back out, and I'm going to look for my 3/4 inch line. And look at that. I got pretty darn close with that fold. Whoop. 3/4 inch, not 1/2 inch. There we go. Oh my gosh. Y'all were like, hello, use your ruler, lady. I did. And now I'm going to make sure that this is nicely flat. Get my fold flat right there. There we go. So 3/4 inch right about in there. And then for you, you're going to have workspace. You want to make sure that you have your 18 inches. So that's 14. This is not scientific. How I'm doing that. I got it. Yes, I know how I'm going to trim it. This is awesome. So I'm going to go on and tap that down a little bit. And now I'm going to put my other 2 pieces in top. So if you want to, you can be building this little flower unit on your perfect stack using your fusing mat. But for me, I figured I can eyeball it right here on this. So that goes right at the bottom and in the center. And then peel our next piece right in the center. So easy. So now we're going to iron it in place. And it doesn't take very long to iron it. You'll see it like go down right away. So I'm holding it for what, 3 to 5 seconds is all you need to hold it on there for. Now, technically, if you keep holding it forever, eventually it'll become unsticky, like you'll overheat the fusible. I personally have never been able to do that, but every now and then someone does. So just be careful. There we go. Look at that. It sticks. So now we want to put oh, hello in place, right? And let me get where y'all are going to be able to see this. So let's look at our pattern. The H, let's get hello. Come here, hello. Hello. I'm going to go in and peel my backing from it. And we're going to talk about putting it in place. How much fun is that to peel off? Was that satisfying? It was satisfying for me. So the middle of the H, see, is like above that center flower. And so now what we're going to do, I'm going to eyeball this into place, and let's put our O. And it ends kind of at this third. Can y'all see very well? I'll move it in just a second. We want it kind of on the same line. And then our comma. And what I'm going to do, we're going to get a ruler, and we're going to know where we marked it. This goes like right before that. Oh, hello. So can you see I have, oh, hello. So this is kind of like lined up above that third petal. And then we have our comma. It's like not quite to that, but getting closer. There we go. So now if you want, with your ruler, I'm going to take the overhead screen off because I want you to be able to see a little better what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do with my big placement guide, let's see, I'll hold it up like this for you. You can see it. I'm just going to take my ruler and go, okay, how far is it from the top to my trim line? And that is about 2 1/4 if I'm seeing through the paper right. And so I'm going to do that up here. Now remember, I'm going to trim it. So I want to make sure that I have more than 2 1/4 above that. That's all I need to make sure I'm going to trim, right? And then let's check on hello. I'm going to look how far in it is from the side. And so it is just under 4. So that means I'm going to measure over here and make sure I have at least 4 because I'm going to trim, right? Perfect. And then you can continue on, but I feel pretty confident that this is all going to be in place. So now I'm just going to move it where I can iron it. So you can see this was very kind of like free-handed on there. Some months, again, you're going to be way more precise with your pieces. But see how nice this irons? Oh, I moved my camera. Let me show you. See, we're just ironing it on and it sticks right away. Beautiful. I love it. This is so easy, you guys. I love it. Now, again, I hope you're at your real size ironing board and you're not struggling like me with like miniature items. I love my Steady Betty for block of the months, but I think I need a bigger one when I'm making my rugs or filming. Maybe next month I'll have a bigger setup for you. So there we go. Oh, hello. I love it. So it's ironed on. Easy peasy. Let me hold it up so you can see it. Let's take a look. This is what yours should look like right now. Oh, hello. Oh my gosh, is that so stinking cute? Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is get our threads ready and we're gonna go to the sewing machine. And that's when I'm gonna hand it over to Julie because I think she does such a better job at sharing stitch tips than I do. So what we're gonna have at the sewing machine, we are gonna have for the applique, you're gonna do a 30 weight black thread in your needle, and you're gonna do a 50 weight black thread in your bobbin. And we use a size 90-14 needle. The reason we use that size is because it has a bigger eye hole, and so it can accommodate the 30 weight thread through it. You don't change any settings on your machine in terms of like tension or speed or anything like that. You can just go crazy. And then for when we do the quilting, we're going to do the same thing, but in this ecru, and it is the 30 weight in the needle, 50 weight in the bobbin, same needle. So without further ado, let me hand it over to Julie and she's going to give you some stitch tips.
Hi everybody, it's Julie here, and I'm going to give you some of my tips for stitching on your Quilts on the Floor rug. Now, one of the best things about this Oh Hello rug is it's a really good introduction to stitching for these rugs and doing the easiest way. Now, what you're going to do with this, I have my machine set on 2.2 stitch length, and it's just right in the middle. It's a straight stitch. I'm also going to use needle up, needle down. So if you have that, that'll be helpful. If you don't, it's okay. You can just plan where you're going to stop and start. And then also I have 30 weight thread in my needle, and therefore a 90-14 needle. And I have 50 weight in my bobbin, and they're both black. Now, one of the things, especially with letters, you don't have to worry about this with other things like on the flower here. You're just going to follow the edge about 1/8 of an inch in, and we're going to stitch on that. I'll show you how we do that. But what I find helpful with lettering is like on this H, and you'll see it with these others. I'm trying to get this so it's in the view for you. Okay, to start with, what you're going to want to do is you're going to stitch which part of the letters are behind. Like when you, as you write, look at this, as you write a letter, it's kind of written like in cursive as you would write. So this portion of the H is on top. So to help you when you're stitching, to remember what you're doing, here, let's see if I can write with my right hand. I'm going to use this black friction pen, which is just a little clicker friction pen. And I'm just going to draw a line right here. Don't worry, this comes off with heat. And I'm left-handed, so this is not easy for me. That's going to be my on top portion. So when I do my, I'm going to stop my black lines here, stop at this little seam, pretend there's a seam there. And then I'm going to pick it up and come around here, and I'm going to come down like this and keep following. So when I get over here to this E, let me roll this over here. You see the E, this portion also is going to be on top. So just draw yourself a little line. It's also going to be on top right here on this part of the E. And likewise with the L. Oh, we can see that one. Okay. L here like this. And this L, of course. Brittany's helping me roll this over to keep it in the camera. for you. And right here. And the O here. Now this part of the O is going to come right here. Let's see, we're going to come up. This part's going to be on top. Whoops. Like
and
that.
your friction pin irons away.
Yeah, so don't worry about these nasty looking lines. They're not very accurate. You're going to be just doing it with your sewing machine anyway.
Do you want to do O?
O?
Of Oh Hello?
Oh, hello. Yes, oh, hello is going to be done the same way. Now, if you'll notice on this part of the O, it's a little bit tricky because, like, if you could envision the line, if there was a seam here, it would come like that. So you're going to come up here all the way here. So I just kind of made mine look like a point. It's a rug on the floor. Nobody's going to really pay that close of attention, but you know, you kind of want to make it look right, right? So there's kind of your easy guidelines to keep you on track for these. And then for Oh Hello, we will basically do the same thing. So we'll be coming right here. Y'all didn't know, but I'm sort of ambidextrous, but not always. To a certain extent. But now you're going to come along here to the O, like, and stop here because you want this portion of your H to come on top. So basically just kind of give yourself little helpful hints to remind you. So that's going to be like the Oh Hello.
And of course, the front of the pattern has a really good picture for you to see.
Yeah, you can look at that. So that's how we'll do the letters. But let's start with something simple, stitching this way with the flower at the bottom. Also, do we sell these friction pins for everybody?
Somehow no, we only sell the chalk pencils.
Oh, well, we should sell these friction pins. I have become quite a fan of these. And this one is, if you guys...
Hold it lower.
Lower? Okay. Oh.
There you go.
There. Okay. It's a friction clicker 07. And make sure that it says erasable. And erasable means it's heat erasable. You just stick your iron on here and it goes away. I've never had any difficulty with it coming off of anything. Okay, so let's get this pin out of our way. And now we'll start down here on the flower.
And what you're doing, it's kind of hard to see, but you're just gently rolling the excess fabric.
Yeah. So now also with the bottom of this portion, the lower portion, we're not going to have to stitch because it's going to be caught in our seam allowance when we trim it and put our binding on. That'll be in the machine or in the disappear. So you don't have to stitch down there. They'll just add bulk. But we do need to stitch over here with this flower. We're going to start right here. So what we want to do is with this stitching, I call it like I don't know, a scribble stitch. You don't have to be real accurate. And it was hard for me at first because doing applique with the blanket stitch, you want to be accurate. You want to get it right following along the edge of the line. And so I actually found it difficult to be sort of messy. It actually looks better if you're a little bit messy. So this is permission to be...
So some of us will be great.
Not so neat.
Like me.
So you want to start your machine and just, I've got this in slow-mo, but you'll see I'm about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. And because this is a straight line, we're just going to go and speed it up a little bit here. I sew with my finger. I don't know how many of y'all do that, but with my machine, I can do start and stop with my finger. I find that wonderful with applique. And now this, I'm just going to put this down. I'm going to take one more little stitch over here so I can see that I'm going to be where I want to be.
And you're keeping your needle down.
My needle is down. It stops down for me because I programmed the machine that way. If you can't, just stop with your needle down. I mean, if you don't have a program that way. So now we want to start again. And you'll see this is so fun and simple. And you don't have to be perfectly accurate. Again, just kind of meander along. Now we're going to pivot around. You don't have to have a stabilizer under this because the canvas is thick enough that it holds the stitches just nicely. Now, a little far away on this one. Look at that. Whoa! So you know what I do when I do that? I just try to be a little messier. And then when I come back with the next go around, because we're going to go 2 stitches around on all of this. Or 2 times around, not 2 stitches, 2 times. I want to show them how I do that.
Your wiggle is there, yeah.
But I mean, do you want me to go all the way around this?
You can go back and show them. Just go back straight over it.
Okay, well, I don't normally go this way, but we could go this way. This is how you do your second stitch. Just, you know, you just want to come kind of close. Go where you're supposed to go. Wiggle around.
So you're not necessarily stitching exactly over your previous line.
No, because then it looks too neat. And it doesn't look as cute.
And so everyone understands you would go all the way around your flower the first time and then come back a second time.
But I'm just showing you this so you can see.
For the sake of time.
For the sake of time. I got something back here. Is that a necessary item?
Nope, it's gone.
Thank you. Y'all don't know how fun it is to try to sew with a camera in your face. or right where you want to be normally. So anyway, I like to just, you know, wiggle a little bit.
I do think everyone's going to want you to show them a letter.
A letter?
After you do this. We got to see you go around an O or something.
Uh-oh.
Please.
It's really just, you know, no art to this at all. Just wiggle along. Once you get the hang of it, not having to be very neat, it's a lot quicker. You can even speed your machine up probably for your second go around than you did the first one. Okay, so there that is. Right there. It's funny how this looks kind of greenish, but it's really brown. Isn't it? That's brown.
I forget the name of the actual color.
Too, but it's a brown. Anyway. Okay. So let's come up here. Let's work on this H right here, this first H. Whoops. We're coming a little unglued.
Really the second H because you're doing hello.
I mean, it's the first letter of the word. Yeah, I said that weird, didn't I? Okay. So now when I start this one, you can see if this was a multi-piece unit, you would have a joint right here. This portion would be tucked under there. So we're going to pretend that that's there. And we're not going to start this stitch right at that line. We're going to start a little bit away, like right here. I have this fast. I'm going to slow this down. Now it's kind of close to the edge, but again, it doesn't really matter. I hope you're seeing more than my hand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like when I have tails hanging out there. Let me snip this away.
Not everyone else has to turn around a camera.
Yeah, I'm trying to fit in. When you'll have plenty of space on your machine to do this easily. It's just me and Canon or whoever this camera is are having fun. Now, when I'm doing one like this, that's such a small bit, I will go ahead and go back and just do my backwards bit this way.
So when you start the next part of the H, are you going to cut your thread or you continue the line?
No, I'm going to cut my thread because it's not connected.
Okay.
Now, when I'm doing something like this, I do try to go right on top of where I stopped. And sometimes you can take like one stitch back. Well, this machine, I got to hold my finger down. It always takes more than one. So it doesn't really matter. You can see that. It looks fine. See there? So there's that. Now, the question always is, where do you start when you're doing one of these like this? But where you're going to start is in here. You're going to start on this part of your loop because you're like writing. So we're going to start right here on this part of the O. We're not starting on the down. I mean H. It's not an O. Whatever. Hell, I do know my alphabet most days. Start right there.
So you're pivoting anytime it turns. Is that correct?
Yes. This is like watching paint dry, isn't it?
Speed it up,
Speed that up a little bit.
And for those of you that are new to the applique, you can go as slow as you want.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. There's nobody watching you.
But there is someone watching you.
Yeah. A lot of people watching me, huh? Maybe. But y'all, you know, I made all of these rugs. They were so much fun to make. I enjoyed it so much. And when you go to quilting them, oh my goodness, that was so fun. Because I did what I call the wiggle stitch, or it's a serpentine stitch. We'll talk about that in a little bit, I guess. But it was just fun to do. I mean, just fun. Okay, see, here we come down. Dee, 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 dee.
So you just keep tracing all the way through the beginning to the end.
Whoa, did you see what happened?
No.
Well, I got a little carried away.
You went rogue?
I went rogue. I hit the button the wrong button. So it took off. I'll go around here.
So the feature that you love on this machine is that the foot goes up and down and the needle stays down for you. Is that something common on most machines?
I think on the newer machines now that are computerized, yes. In the past, we didn't have that. Typically, it wasn't, I don't know, I guess it wasn't invented. So I can't remember when. We're going to stop right here. And then we're going to go back and we're going to stitch over this again.
Now, if you were doing this not on camera, would you stitch the whole word of hello?
I would keep going, yes.
And then you'd come back and do a second pass.
Yes, and I'm just doing this so we can look at how fun it is. But yes, you do, because theoretically, your thread is stronger if you don't break it.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. Keep holding hands and you'll be stronger than if you let go.
Words of wisdom.
From an old lady. Always hold your hand. When you walk across the street. Y'all, we were somewhere. Where'd we go? We were in France.
But
Brittany and I.
yes.
And I don't know where we were. And I don't remember what the circumstances were, but she, being my daughter, reached over and grabbed my hand to help me go across the street. I was like, okay. Used to be the other way around. She was like, I'm going to help my mommy in case she can't make it.
That's funny.
Of course, there was a time we were in
Arles,
and the wind, oh my gosh, y'all, they had this.
We were going to fall in the river.
The wind was terrible. And I mean, it was
Or Avignon. Well, both.
It was It was aural.
Yeah, it was aural on the steps.
And the wind was so strong that you had to forcibly stand up. I've never been in a wind that strong before.
It was like a movie scene.
Oh my goodness, it was just like knock you over. Little children were like bending backwards. It was amazing. And we were all just running and ducking behind a building because you couldn't stand up and it was freezing cold.
We now know why windbreakers exist.
Yeah, it was April, wasn't it? Yeah. And I actually got sunburned on the boat, but
that same day.
The same day, but it was so cold. It just was, the weather was unbelievable, but the wind, I guess, was making it cold. But anyway.
That was funny.
Yeah, I think she held my hand then too. I was like, yeah, hold me.
Yeah, for sure. We needed to, so we didn't fall over.
Hold me. I'm going to blow away.
That was a group effort.
And you know, those old stones, that the city is so marvelous. And you know, the old stones, they've been there for hundreds of years. So they're not exactly even like we have steps now.
Yeah, you got it.
So anyway, I'm just purposely wiggling a little because, again, like I said, looks better to me when it's wiggly and not exactly on itself.
So you used to call this a scribble stitch.
I know, yeah.
Ago.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a scribble with your thread.
Scribbly, yeah.
What would you call it today? Still a scribble stitch or something different?
Scribble, I guess. Now here I was a little too accurate for my taste. This is better. I like it better right here, where this is a little more wiggly. But you know, it's if being inaccurate or not on top of itself bothers you, stitch it on top. Make it as neat as you want it to be or as messy as you want it to be. Oh, I wouldn't go too crazy, but you know.
You don't go off the edge of the applique.
Yeah. I think the beauty of this is being able to get it quickly done.
And you don't want to pierce the edge of the applique.
Yeah, when you have applique, even if it's got fusible on it and laser cut, it will still fringe.
If you pierce it.
And we've washed these quilts, and I don't think
mine hasn't
they really haven't fringed much at all, if any.
No.
I don't think any of mine have.
Mine either.
So it's really.
And I said earlier in this video, we live hard in my house.
She does. I mean, her dog gets dirt and carries it in and out.
I mopped yesterday, and 10 minutes later, dirt again. It's a thing.
And she has grass. I don't know where else dirt's coming from.
No idea.
Anyway. So
yeah, I don't live in a dirt pile.
I'm the one whose backyard isn't the best. But anyway, that's it. Oh, hello.
So next up, after this is all stitched, we'll talk about quilting.
All right. So there you go.
Happy stitching on this part.
Are you going to turn me off?
I am.
Okay. Bye, y'all.
Okay, so now you have everything stitched. So let's take a look. There's O. Hello. And then the flower. And don't worry if yours isn't perfect. So as you saw in the tutorial a second ago, Julie stitched like to here. And then she did part of this H. And then I finished it. And you can see if you look, man, there's some moments where, ooh, I got a little rough. I didn't mean to. But that's okay. It's going to be on the floor. And it's going to be just fine. So if you're not 100% happy with your stitching, don't freak out. It's going to be fine. No one's going to see like the weird little stitch, you know, where I got a little pointy. Where was it? Oh, down here on my little scallops. I don't know what was happening to me, but I got like pointy right there. It's okay. No one's going to like see that on the floor. So now it is time to get ready for the quilting portion. So it's really easy. I'm going to show you how to get your background, the batting, and the backing all smushed together. And I'm going to show you how to mark your lines for the quilting. And then I'm not going to show you the quilting because, well, I know you can do it. You just stitch straight lines or do like a little wiggle stitch following your straight line and you quilt it like you would anything. So what I'm going to do is fold this in half. And this is Julie's advice, is to start from the middle and go out. So I'm just going to like mark kind of with a fold my middle. And then when I turn it over, loop. I know it's kind of hard to see the full thing in the camera, but I'm going to take my ruler and I am going to line it up. I'm making sure it's, see at the bottom, I'm making sure that my ruler is straight here because I want to have a straight line in my quilting. And the bottom of this flower is absolutely perfectly straight. So if you orient your straight line from that, you'll have a nice 90-degree angle here. It'll look visually straight across, and it'll match when you trim it up. So I'm going to get that same friction pin that Julie was using, and I'm going to mark it. And the way we quilted it, the way Julie quilted every single sample, is she quilted right over all of the applique. Just quilt right over it. She debated if she was going to do that or not, and ultimately in our testing, we decided it gave it a little more stability to like add another layer of like sewing over the applique, and you can't really see the quilting that much, right? So I've marked my initial line. Now, how far apart are you going to do your lines? Julie's recommendation is about 1 inch. Now, you can look at your sewing machine presser foot, and instead of like measuring out all your lines, you can just stitch on this line and then go a presser foot width all the way over, and that'll give you a nice good stitching. And depending on what foot you have on, that can get you anywhere between about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch. I, however, for whatever reason, like to follow my lines. So I'm going to draw for myself. I'm going to turn my ruler this way. I'm going to give myself a mark every inch so that I don't have to think about it. And I just stitch right over every single thing that I've done. So if you're like me, you can go crazy and draw your lines. Again, make sure you use a friction pin that erases with heat. Or again, you can do like Julie and just use your presser foot as a guide after you've drawn your first line. So now let's talk about how you're going to quilt it. And so I'm going to turn this part off. I think this part's, because everything is so large, I think it's easier for you to see it like this. Oop, I have stuff on my table. Okay, so what you're going to use now, you're going to get your June Taylor quilt basting spray. And essentially what this is like a spray adhesive. If you haven't used it before, it's really handy. It doesn't affect your needle or gum up your needle or anything. You barely need any of it. And what we're going to do is sandwich the front, back, and bottom. So I like to do the front first personally. And my batting, let me show you the batting. Batting always is like never like a perfect cut, right? Like it always wants to like flare up in a corner or something like that. But the batting comes in a package that's 60 inches square. And you're going to trim your rug when it's finished to 18 by 30. So you don't want to trim your batting to 31. You want to trim it to 30 inches or you're going to end up not having the right amount of batting in your package. So if you get the batting from us that's 60 inches squared, you're just going to cut it in half at 30 inches, right? Then you have 30 inches by 60 inches and 30 inches by 60 inches. From that long piece of 60 inches that's already 30 inches wide, you'll just cut 3 18s, and you'll do that on the second strip that you have. So from one pack of batting, you get 6 pieces of batting for your rugs. So when it comes to spraying this, I am going to get a piece of cardboard out. This is Julie's advice too, because you don't want to get spray adhesive anywhere. So what I'm going to do is on top of my card, can you see my little cardboard? Boop. Let me hold that up. I'm just going to go. There you go. You don't need like a ton. Then let me scooch this over. There we go. And spray, 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 spray. Now I'm going to lay my piece of batting. This is not fusible batting, so there's no right or wrong. But I'm going to lay the bottom of it along the bottom of my flower. And then you want to center it so that when you trim, you have enough batting all the way to the edge. And this is surprisingly sticky. There we go. So look at that. You just wad it down. Let me show you. I'll hold it up. So you can see on one side is my front of my rug, and then you have your batting. It's literally that easy. And I'm just going to do the same thing again. Let me hold my little board. It's just a piece of cardboard. If you're like us, you get enough boxes in the mail, you can get cardboard anytime you need it, right? And again, just whoop, 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 whoop. And then, I'm going to do the other side too. Whoop, 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 whoop. There we go. That's it. See, it only takes a second. You don't need much. And then we're going to take the back of our rug. And you want to aim pretty well because, like I said, it's stickier than you think, like right away. There we go. And then you're just gonna smush it down with your hands. You don't need to iron it or anything like that. Obviously, make sure your piece is ironed before you're doing it. Because like if you're like me, when you were doing the stitching, you have to like roll it up to get it under your machine and stuff. And so you do need to iron it before you do this step. Okay, so let's take a look. I'm gonna hold it up. This is what I have now. I have my little sandwich. Oh, hello. And so I have a couple guidelines. I am gonna give myself the lines all the way across, but you can see what I have. I have a sandwich, top, middle, back. And we're ready to quilt. And you're gonna do the ecru color thread, same needle that you've had on your machine for the applique, 30 weight in your needle, 50 weight in your bobbin that's matching. And then you're gonna do a straight line. You can do like a little decorative stitch that your machine has, like a little wiggle. You could also do a different kind of quilting, like if you wanna do a cross hatch across it. Julie's advice is to make sure that your quilting isn't more than about an inch or so away from each other, just because you do wanna make sure that it's nice and sturdy and put together when it's on the floor of your house. And then a reminder, when you're done with that, you will then trim it. You're gonna use a ruler. For trimming this rug, where I would start, and it says this in the pattern, put your ruler right along the bottom edge of this applique piece and trim there. And then you'll be able to do your 18 inches up and your 30 inches out from your center line, and that will get you your 18 by 30 for the trimming. And then with your binding, again, they're 3-inch strips. You have 2 of them. You're simply gonna just connect them like you would any binding. You're gonna put them, you're gonna fold it in half, and then you're gonna sew around the front, connecting it. You're gonna fold it to the back, and then stitch in the ditch to secure your binding in place. If you wanna use a decorative stitch there, you can. On all of ours, we just did a straight stitch. Let me get the finished one out and show you closer on the quilting. I'm gonna put this camera on so you can see. There you go. So see the quilting? You can see that Julie has, I think, the center line right here, and then she stitched on either edge of it and then just went all the way through. And then how the binding finishes off, you can see it's sewn on the front. You can see where she joined it. She did a mitered seam right there. You see that? Yep. And then when she attached it, then you flip it back over, and you can see there's plenty of room for it to get caught when you stitch in the ditch around the binding. And you can see from the front, you can't really see that white thread where she stitched. Like, she did really good stitching in the ditch there. Nice. And so this is the stitch she did, I think, on every single rug. It's just a little wiggle. Now, my advice, you know, this gets a little like mundane when you're like just sewing the straight lines over and over. Don't go crazy with your decorative stitch. Don't pick one that takes like a really long time to do, because you'll get tired of it. This is a very fast little wiggle. A straight line is really fast. So that's my personal advice on that. I'm gonna stick with a wiggle like she did. I think it's super cute. So I hope that all of this tutorial has been helpful for making your rug. If there's anything you need to like clarify or have a question on, you can comment on the video or reach out to us. If you go to stitchesoflovequilting.com, click on support, you can submit a ticket there, and we are happy to answer any questions you have, because we want this to be so much fun for you. So I'm going to, well, first edit this video tutorial for you, and then I'm gonna come back up here into the studio and finish this rug so that hopefully I can take it home to my house today, because I want it and I love it. It's so cute. I hope that you enjoy making this, and happy stitching.